But look, to kick us off on some of our investment pitches today, we have Fraser Tabillard, who is Managing Director of Alma Metals, who is here to tell us all about the Briggs porphyry copper molybdenum project in central Queensland. Please welcome Fraser.
Right, thank you very much for the introduction. I dream of having a market cap of $30 million. So hopefully by the end of the week or by the end of the year we'll be getting there. That was a great introduction, I guess, for Alma Metals. We're very much an Australian-focused copper exploration and development company, and I'd like to just spend the next sort of 10 minutes just sort of going through the highlights of what Alma's got. Usual cautionary statements there. I'm sure you're all familiar with those. We've basically got two key projects. The one I'm going to spend the vast majority of the time talking about today is the Briggs joint venture in Queensland. It is a large outcropping porphyry copper deposit with over 400 million tonnes of defined resources at relatively low copper grades, but with some molybdenum credits. It's in the top 10 of largest undeveloped copper projects in Australia, and one we think can grow substantially and almost certainly going to be part of the next generation of copper deposits. We've also got another project in the East Kimberley. That's a much earlier stage project and looking for a different style of copper mineralisation. The status of that project is we've applied for 7 large-scale exploration licences. Some of those have been granted. We have an agreement with the Indigenous landowners to access the land, but we don't yet have a permit from the state government, so we're just waiting for the state to catch up with the rest of us, and then we'll get out there hopefully to do the first phase of exploration this field season. But I'm going to spend most of the next 10 minutes just talking about Briggs, because that's where we've done most of the work in the last few years. Just a little bit about the company. We've got a market cap of around about $10 million at the moment. We've got some listed shares in there, a little bit of cash. That gives us an EV of about $6 million on this project, which I hope will demonstrate is seriously undervalued, and there's your upside. In terms of the people, we've got quite an experienced board. I think there's not going to be many MDs that are going to stand up and say anything different, but Alistair, who's our chairman, he's also our largest shareholder, so he's put a lot of his own money into this company. He's got a track record of building mines in Australia and Africa, sold a number of assets here in Australia, including Esco Resources to Xstrata for about $350 million 5 or 6 years ago. So he's certainly got a track record in Queensland and in copper. I've got a background as a geologist in porphyry copper, spent 16 years with Western Mining, including working on the Tampakan project in the Philippines. John Dean there is also a senior executive at First Quantum Minerals. So we've got people on the board with copper experience. Valentine, he privatised the Zambian copper belt back in the early 90s. So there's a lot of copper experience within this company. Shareholding quite tightly held, top 20 owned about 45% of the company. We've got quite a lot of competitive advantage in copper exploration and development through that management group, but we've also got effectively a private entity called the Mitchell River Group, and Mitchell River Group has provided a lot of the management expertise and some of the funding into Alma Metals, but also Caravel Minerals is within that group, and Caravel's got a very large copper project in Western Australia that has a similar grade tonnage curve to this. So there's a lot of synergies within that office between Alma and Caravel. Favoured towards Alma at the moment, we get a bit of a free carry based on the knowledge that Caravel's built over the last few years. The copper market, we've heard a lot about that in the previous discussion, so I won't dwell on this slide. The only one I'll point out to is this curve over here on the right. That's the reason the copper price went through $4 the other day, is there's the toll treating charges and refining charges of copper have collapsed to an all-time low. You can get a ton of your concentrate refined, toll treated for about $3 a tonne at the moment. That's an all-time low, and that's because China, India, Indonesia have all built new smelters. They must know something about the size of the market, because you don't build a smelter if you don't need one. And at the moment, the supply side has not caught up with that capacity and is unlikely to for quite a while. And most of the issues, I think, in copper are not so much on the demand side, which is going to be steady growth for the next 2 decades. It's more on the supply side, where all the big mines, the grades are dropping, the discovery rate of deposits has dried up, the length of time it takes to permanent projects has increased, and then you're getting also significant supply disruptions in the short term, particularly in emerging economies. And I draw your attention to things like Cobre Panama, where the government's recently just closed down a 350,000 tonne per year producer, and that's not likely to come back on stream anytime soon. Okay, what about our project? So we're in Queensland. It's a large outcropping porphyry copper deposit, basically an inner core of granodiorite intrusions with lots of stockwork veins full of copper. You see here, geologists for scale. This is one of the many outcrops in the project. That mineralisation goes out into the surrounding volcanic host rocks, in many cases slightly higher grade in the enclosing rocks. That's something we're learning as we do more and more drilling on this. Significant upside in grade and tonnage. I'll show you some images on that. Very good preliminary metallurgy, very good infrastructure, and a project we're currently earning into a joint venture. We can earn up to 70%. We've currently got 30%. We need to spend about another $1.5 million to get to 51%, and then another $10 million to go to 70%. Just in terms of where do we fit, this little bubble here is our current resource. This bigger bubble here is what we believe is the upside of our exploration target. If you add those two together, which is the total project potential, you end up with a deposit out here which is very similar to Caravel, and that has 3 million tonnes of contained copper metal. That is the biggest undeveloped copper project in Australia. This has the potential to get onto that curve and match that. That's what we hope to achieve with further drilling on this project. And for people that don't think 0.25, 0.3% copper can work, there's the evidence that it can. Those are operating mines in that 0.25 to 0.35% copper, showing some of their all-in sustaining costs. It can be done. You need a number of things in your favour. You need scale to get the benefits of the economy of scale with large trucks. You need low strip ratio. You need good metallurgy. You need good infrastructure. This project has all of those, and there's no reason why we can't end up with an operation equally as profitable as some, if not more though, than some of those. Infrastructure is key to that. We sit about 60 kilometres to the west of Gladstone. We're 10 kilometres north of this infrastructure corridor, which has road, rail, 3 gas pipelines, 2 high voltage power lines. We're on freehold private land with 1 landowner, so you couldn't get a much better place to develop a project. Plenty of skilled labour in Gladstone, which is one of the great industrial hubs in Australia. Significant scale, as I said. This is just a map showing the soil sampling. As I said, the deposit outcrops, so soil sampling is very effective in outlining where the copper is. You can see the big black outlines. Those are the 2 current inferred resources, 50 million tonnes in the north, 365 million tonnes in the centre. A lot of upside within the 500 ppm copper contour outside of that. And where there are short drill holes outside of that resource, every single one of those holes has hit copper mineralisation at greater than 0.1 or 0.2%. So very likely that the resource will increase in size to, we think, a good chance it'll get to 1 billion tonnes in total. I don't know what's going on with the formatting on these slides, guys, but they're all a wee bit off. They were looking fine this morning. Anything we can do about it? No? Okay. Well, unfortunately, all the key numbers are hidden behind these bullet points. Really, all this slide was showing is that the preliminary met work here, which has been done on the 3 principal ore types, is showing that we can get close to marketable concentrate grades with mid to high 90% copper recovery. So we're confident with further optimisation that we'll be able to get low 90% copper recovery to a marketable concentrate. We've still got to do more work on the molybdenum, but that's likely to happen in the next phase of met work. These are the key rock types. The granodiorite intrusion with, in fact, there are 3 phases of granodiorite diorite, each with its own copper mineralising event. The mineralisation extends out into the surrounding volcanic sediments, and in places we have these magmatic quartz bodies which have potentially very high grades, often between 0.6 and 1.4% copper. So that's some of our high grade. This is sort of a moderate grade, and this is our lower grade. As I said, the soil sampling is very effective, and what we've worked out with the recent round of drilling, which are these holes here, is when we've drilled into the higher parts of the soil anomaly, we're seeing higher grades in the top 200 metres of that drilling. So the drilling here, we had a large number of intersections well in excess of the average grade of the deposit, both in terms of copper and molybdenum. And what we can see is there's very little drilling out on this side of the intrusion. These hole collars here are very short vertical holes which have barely got through the oxide zone on the top. So there's a whole zone out here of further test work. There's obviously other anomalies here, here and up here that have got no drilling in them at all. So that'll be the focus of some of our future work. And just looking at some of the cross sections here, you might struggle to see the numbers here, but certainly the hole recently drilled, there's a hole here which stopped deliberately in mineralisation close to the contact between the granodiorite and the volcanics. That entire hole averaged 0.3% copper, still in mineralisation at the bottom. Another hole here drilled out from the intrusion out into the sediments and then getting close towards the southern porphyry. Grades picking up as we get close to the porphyry, and very high grades here with a 50-metre zone at surface going 0.6% copper. That was all oxidised, so that will likely make it into a possible early starter heap leach operation. And just putting that into 3D, this is our target for the next round of drilling, and the goal is to basically drill that with infill drilling, get that into an indicated resource, use the material for met studies, and then get into a scoping study at the end of this year. And I think I'm getting the nod that my time's up, so I'll leave it there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Fraser. We do have time for one or two very quick questions, if there are any questions from the audience. Again, as always, if you could please wait for the microphone. We do want to keep the video recording live. But look, while we're waiting for one quick question, one question from me, Fraser. The grades are very low, as you mentioned, and there are other projects that do have those low grades, but can that really get up in Australia, and why would we invest right now in Alma Metals?
Yeah, look, that's the question we get asked probably more often than anything. In fact, we often don't get meetings because people just look at the grade and walk away. I think that's one of the key learnings that we've had from sharing an office with Caravel, who've got an almost identical grade in both copper and molybdenum. And the work that they've done has shown that if you can get the economy of scale, so you can bring your mining rates down, or your mining cost per unit of copper down, if you've got good metallurgy, so your processing is efficient and you're getting as much of the copper and the moly out as you can, and reasonably good infrastructure, then there is certainly a very strong margin there. We think we've got a better infrastructure solution already bought and paid for here in Queensland. So when if you look at Caravel's feasibility study, there's many tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars that are required for infrastructure. We're not going to have to spend any of that because it's all there. It's all open access, so we can use that. So we think we tick all of the critical boxes. So certainly 0.25% copper, even 0.3, 0.35 isn't going to work in many places. But if you have the right geometry at surface, good metallurgy and good infrastructure, it certainly is very doable and could be very profitable.
Okay, please thank Fraser so much for the Alma story.